I wrote a book called Reluctantly Resilient. And in the book, I talk about a few things you need to be successful in business. One is interpersonal effectiveness skills, but the other is finding a what else. And that what else is what drives you beyond money, beyond people, beyond the mission of your business. Because let's be honest, Joe, if we didn't have a what else, we'd probably just have jobs.
Welcome to Mastering the Numbers. I'm your host, Joe Mallo. Hello, everyone. This is Joe Mallo with the Lead Edge Consulting Group, powered by Focal Point Business and Executive Coaching. Welcome back to another episode of Mastering the Numbers. And today, joining us is Chrissy Myers. She's the CEO with Clarity HR. Chrissy, thanks for taking part in the interview series with me.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for allowing me to share some wisdom and learning with your listeners.
Great. We're looking forward to finding out more. So, yeah, why don't we just start off with this? Why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about Clarity HR?
Yes, so Clarity HR is a small business HR fractional service team for organizations that do not have, do not want, or do not need a full-time HR person. In addition to that, Clarity supports other HR people. So we're kind of like your HR bat phone if you have an HR person, or we're your HR resource, everything from VP of HR to HR generalist. We will help you soup to nuts with all the people things that help you drive your business forward.
But that's great. So I'm starting to hear more and more about fractional help for small business owners like myself. I'm just a one person show here, and I have a fractional marketing team that spends a little bit of time with me every single week. So is it becoming more popular or more prevalent, the
Oh,
fractional side?
absolutely. Yes, I think that as small business owners, we're trying to be more effective, efficient, and compelling. And so understanding that we can borrow the brain power or pay for the brain power for individuals that have a depth of experience in an area so that we're not necessarily paying for a
Yeah.
full-time wage for part-time help. So I think that that's really where we can be more efficient as organizations. So yeah, even from chief marketing to fractional CFOs to bookkeeping, accounting, HR is now one of those things that is growing into the same space that provides
Yeah.
fractional services.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot more about it. And where's Clarity HR located?
So
Where's your
we're located
headquarters?
in Northeast Ohio, but
Okay.
we do work all over the country. We have clients in
Okay.
Texas, California, Utah, New York. So we kind of move all across the
Right.
country as needed. We can do most of our services virtually. And then if you're in Northeast Ohio and you absolutely have to have somebody physically in the office, we're happy to go be there and be that body for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell the audience a little bit about maybe some of the challenges or struggles that you've had growing the business and how you overcame them.
Yeah. So the first part was, we originally I had done work in employee benefits. And so we got the feedback of, you do employee benefits so well. Would you consider opening an HR company and doing fractional HR services? And I said no for several years. One, I didn't completely own the benefits business that I was in at that point in time, and I didn't want to grow another business and have to pay more for it. But the other part was, Joe, I was afraid of HR people. Because to me, an HR person is like, they know everything about me. They know everything about my business. What happens if we have a hostile relationship and I don't like my HR person and then I have to figure out what to do with that person? So I said no for a period of time out of fear and then kind of got over myself, decided, let's be a true entrepreneur. Let's jump into something that we don't completely know. And then learning how to grow that business, how to price services, how to, the things that you do when you're a small business owner and sometimes when you're out by yourself. And then as you continue to scale and add people, what are the services we can add? What will people actually pay for? What is our true value? So those were some of the initial challenges. And then of course that up and down of consulting where sometimes, you've got really big contracts and then all of a sudden everybody is successful. You've launched, you've done everything that you need for that client and you've made them so successful, you've successfully put yourself out of a job. So how do you
Right.
continue to maintain that funnel and pipeline as you grow and scale and add more people to your team?
Yeah, it's funny you said that you were scared of HR. I think for most people, they only talk to HR twice. Once when they're getting hired, and once if they're getting laid off or fired.
That's
It's only
generally
the
the
times you
case.
talk to them.
Yes, and as a small business
Yeah,
owner, you're talking to HR when you need to hire somebody or you've
right.
got a situation where you need to make a decision around your people. And so for us, and for me specifically, it was, my goal with starting Clarity was to enable business owners to feel more empowered to make those decisions around their people. So they don't have to be
Yeah,
afraid of, I have to add an employee or I need to make a change
yeah,
and create a different part of my organization? How do I make changes and be more nimble? How do I respond to employee behavior? And so this was something that
Yeah.
kind of I continued to grow up in my business owner hat as we continued to grow Clarity as well.
Right. Yeah. I think it's crucial for small businesses to have that help. And the problem is, a long time ago, we would never get that help because we couldn't afford that help.
Yes.
Like you said, to hire an entire person to do something that's doesn't really need 40, 50 hours a week. So I definitely see that it's a hugely important. So when you think back to the start of your business, is there anything that you would have done differently in growing your business? Not necessarily a different business, but just any things you would have looked back and said, "Oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that."
I wish that I would have asked people for help a little bit sooner. I think sometimes we think as entrepreneurs we have to do everything ourselves. Um, Being a fractional provider, understanding that you can use fractional services in other areas, and then at the same time, the brain trust of other entrepreneurs can be super beneficial to you. So I would say I wish I would have asked for help a little bit sooner in thinking through processes and products and kind of worked on doing a better job of focus grouping some of the things that we were working on and kind of seeing, just because I think it's going to be a great product and everybody's going to need it doesn't necessarily mean that they see the value or the need for it too. So those are the two things that I would say: asking for help and kind of working through that focus group part. Product development, I think, would have been more beneficial. I could have walked and run a lot faster
Yeah.
had I embraced some of those things initially.
For sure. I think when someone starts a business, they should get a sign over their desk that says "Ask for help."
Yes.
Um, I was reading an article a few months back, and it was the top 10 reasons why small businesses struggle or go out of business, and 9 of the top 10 were all related to asking for help.
Yeah.
So just we're a proud bunch. We don't like to admit that we're struggling. So,
Very
um,
true.
what are what are some common misconceptions you hear from your friends or family or people that you run into about being a small business owners or small business owner? Sorry.
Well, I think there's a couple. The first is for those individuals that don't own a small business and think that it's just totally glamorous and super easy. Like, oh, you get up when you want, you do what you want, you can take a vacation whenever you want. And while some of that is true, what they don't realize is that we never turn off. I think that's the biggest misconception for people that don't own a business, is that the business never truly goes away. It's always running in the back of our mind. What do we need to grow? What problem do we need to solve? What issue is going on? I mean, for some of us that tend to be a little bit more doom and gloom, I have at least once a week where I still consider myself, I'm going to be homeless by the end of next week. You never know what's going to happen. I try not to catastrophize, but I think that's just the natural um, order of being a small business owner sometimes, is you can live in that scary space. But that perspective that, oh, you just have all of this time that you can do whatever you want as a small business owner. And that's like, no, actually, I probably have less time, because when I'm done
Yeah.
with my job at the end of the day, it still comes home with me.
Right, right. Well, that's the perfect segue to my next question, which is just how do you balance your professional and your personal life? Is that something that you try to do, or become successful at doing?
I think it's something that I am always a continuous work in progress on.
Yeah.
So, our family, we call ourselves Team Awesomesauce. So when you've got four people, three different last names, a mom who builds businesses, a dad who played team sports, you get a team name, Team Awesomesauce, a set of core values. Our motto is put more awesome in the sauce. Our purpose statement is we radiate awesome to the world. And so for me, balancing and finding that off switch is in part some of the accountability that Team Awesomesauce has. So I have boundaries around when I will take calls, when I will respond to emails, but there are times where if something's going on that's significant in the business, that I have to take those calls, and our
Yeah.
kids and my husband understand the flexibility around that. But at the same time, I also give them the ability to say, hey, mom, you're working too hard, or you promised you were going to be here. Can you be not just physically here, but can you be mentally and emotionally present? So we have uh, those moments where we hold each other accountable. And I think that's really important,
Yeah.
especially as an entrepreneurial family, that you understand the business is what can drive the family forward financially. But if we don't pay attention to the family part, we may lose one of the most important things that we have in our lives. So I don't know that I have it all figured out, Joe. In fact, I'm going to tell you, I don't have it all figured out. I fail at least once a week, sometimes twice a day, twice an hour, in creating those good boundaries around things. But I
Yeah.
think having a good communication cadence with your family is really important. We have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. And it's really important now as they're starting to get older and they're choosing whether or not they want to spend time with mom and dad. If mom always chose the business, then there's no reason for them to want to spend time with her. So how do we
That's right.
continue to build the right relationships and maintain and continue to just be team awesome sauce?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important as the kids get older, we have to spend as much time with them as possible.
Yes.
Because they'll eventually be in school or on to the next chapter. So then it seems like Team Awesome Sauce is not only just your support team, but they're keeping you on track. They're keeping you, going in the right direction, holding you accountable.
Absolutely. And we have family meetings once a month or when called. We do have a talking stick, so occasionally anyone can call a meeting. And then we get together quarterly. We do things together as a family that are not just business centric, but then are also family centric. So you have
Yeah,
goals for your business, you have a purpose statement for your business. We have a purpose statement and goals for our family. What are the things that we want to
yeah,
accomplish this year all together? I think that it's really important. At one point in time, another business owner, I think they were trying to be snarky and they were like, well, you run your family like a business. And my response was, no, we run our business like family. It's really
yeah,
important that we maintain our structure and have the same kind of guardrails around, our energy and then our time, our talent, our treasure. Because again, we only get so many moments together as a family. And we only get so many moments together in our business. So how do we continue to do those things, move forward, and really enjoy living our awesome sauce life?
yeah. Yeah. It sounds like a good life.
It
Uh,
is.
how do you, I mean, with everything that's going on, family, the business, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay really focused on the business?
Oh, well, Joe, I would say in StrengthsFinder, I'm an achiever. So I am always moving the ball forward and loving to
Yeah,
just check things off my list. You give me a to-do list and I will execute it. It will give me such a good dopamine hit and I'm moving forward. Um, for me, it's about what are the big things that we want to continue to move. So I say, and I wrote a book called Reluctantly Resilient. And in the book, I talk about a few things you need to be successful in business. One is interpersonal effectiveness skills, but the other is finding a what else. And that what else is what drives you beyond money, beyond people, beyond the mission of your business. Because let's be honest, Joe, if we didn't have a what else, we'd probably just have jobs. So
yeah,
for me, that what else is building resilient business owners, knowing that we need to take care of our mental health. And so I work in the community in the mental health space as well. So I mean, that's really, I think, what keeps me motivated and moving forward because we can rise and change our community one person at a time when we build our interpersonal effectiveness skills and take care of our resiliences, especially as business owners. Because if we go down, the whole business could potentially go down. So how do we continue to
that's
just
right.
not just maintain for ourselves and for our families, but also for the employees and the community that we continue to take care of?
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, you and I have talked a couple times before our interview here, and you definitely don't lack motivation. So
Well, thank
I
you.
can hear it. I can hear it in your voice. So um, I guess another direction with I guess with fractionalized HR, how does technology fit into that, and is that something that you're constantly having to upgrade that technology?
So good question. I would say that there's always that question around can AI outlive an HR person? Do you really need an HR person if you have AI? And to my response is yes, because it's only as good as the people that are using it. So having an individual who knows how to use some of those tools, it can help be more efficient. But it's really about the knowledge base because at the end of the day, those HR people have a wide breadth of knowledge. We're not talking about understanding rules and regulations. We're talking about how to communicate and the nuances of dealing with people. And I know ChatGPT and Perplexity have gotten really good at some of the problem solving, but the how to have a difficult conversation is still something that is really important that HR can help you do. So I think you can continue to leverage technology. Absolutely finding those ways to make your handbook more efficient and giving yourself legal updates, creating spaces where you can have real-time engagement, but really at the end of the day, it's still about people and building that people connection.
Yeah, for sure. So taking that one step further, how do you there's we talked about it earlier that fractionalized services have been expanding quite a bit. How do you stay ahead of your competition on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis?
Yeah. So Few things. One is continuous education. So we're only as good as the education that we continue to gain. So we have a pretty wide breadth of HR body of knowledge that we pull from, but then continuing to make sure,
Yeah.
what are the major legislative changes? What are the nuances and what we can do and how we can say yes to the things that our clients want to do? I think oftentimes in HR, small businesses look at HR as the organization that says no, especially if they came from a corporate environment and started their own
Yeah.
business because they were tired of the corporate rigmarole. We pride ourselves in being an organization that can really work with you to say yes. So if you decide that you want to have a boxing gym in the middle of your office, we're not going to tell you no, but we're going to tell you, these are the waivers that you may need to have. It is a true story. We do have a client that has one.
Right.
So it's important to kind of think about that. If you want to have a holiday party and you're worried that HR is going to say, no, you can't have anything to drink or you can't have karaoke. And we just say, these are the parameters. Let's make sure everybody gets home safely. How do you want to make sure that you're going to ensure that everyone is engaged and you don't have any issues? That's just kind of, who we like to be. The HR that says yes on the things that help you keep your culture vibrant.
Well, you're there to keep us out of trouble.
Yes, help you see around corners,
Yeah.
especially regarding some of those things in safety. I think a lot of times with small business owners, we're used to just solving problems really quickly. And sometimes we don't think about, what would OSHA say about this? And that's really what your HR person is there for. They're there to say, hey, I love what you're doing. I love how we're scaling, but let's make sure we check these 3 boxes so that we stay out of having a major audit or a major issue.
Yeah, exactly. So what other people that might want to get into the HR realm? I mean, what do you find most challenging about your industry?
People.
Yeah,
No, I would say
every
honestly,
industry.
every industry has people. I would say that it is understanding that you cannot know everything. And oftentimes I think HR people, we want to be the jack of all trades and understand that we want to know absolutely everything we possibly
Yeah.
can. And as long as they're humans, we're probably going to always have some unknowns. So I would say for individuals that are thinking about getting into that fractional HR space, be prepared to work harder than you would in a traditional HR position. Because
Yeah.
most of the time, if you're in HR for, I'm just going to tell you a dirty little secret, Joe. Most of the time in organizations that have less than 50 employees, that HR person isn't busy most of the time. So, I mean,
Right.
we're in a fractional capacity. We are busy all the time because we're
Yeah.
working with several different clients that need us for a set number of hours a week or a month. So,
Right.
if you want to stay busy and you want to stay engaged, then I would say consulting can be very beneficial to you. And it's never boring because you're working with a whole bunch of different organizations that all have different needs at different times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It never gets boring when you're working with different companies and different
No.
people. So where do you see Clarity HR in the next 12 to 35 months?
I see us continuing to grow. My goal and our projections is that we will triple in size, continue world domination of the HR industry, and really kind of disrupting that space where, people think, I need a PEO or my payroll provider can do some of this work. We like to be the sweet spot between technology and just and using a full-time HR person. And so I see us continuing to grow in efficiencies, helping organizations. I mean, we're doing a lot more work in helping manufacturing organizations, construction organizations deal with OSHA requirements. Oftentimes, as you're scaling in a small business, you had 10 employees, you're working with different types of lines and making things. You can kind of miss some key ideas or key objectives that you
Yeah.
need to pay attention to. And then again, as companies scale, there are those different magic numbers. When you go from 19 employees to 20 employees, from 49 employees to 50 employees, there are those magic triggers that kind of, I think sometimes the small business owners were afraid to walk over that line. And so having
Yeah.
fractional HR that can say, these are all the rules and regulations that are going to change, but we're going to take care of it for you. So all you're doing is worrying about making sure that you hire the right person for the right seat in the position so you can continue to grow your company. So that's really where I see us going, is continuing to empower small businesses to keep making good decisions around adding more people to their organizations and growing.
Yeah. And of course, that's just going to help out the economy and everything else along with it. So I think it's a great thing to have. So what's the best business advice anybody's ever given you over the years?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I've gotten some really good advice from a lot of different people, but the one that I would say um, was most important was from a business coach that I had at one point in time. And she told me to never stop learning. She said, it's one thing to become an expert in what you're doing and the organization that you're leading, but it's another thing to continue to become an expert in leadership. And you are never going to be a true expert in leading people because you're always going to have different situations that come up. So one of our core values in Team Awesomesauce is always strive to level up. So I would say that comes from that lesson as well. So whether it is investing in additional resources to build your financial acumen or your HR acumen or your decision-making, building those interpersonal effectiveness skills, Joe, I think that in itself is a lifetime of mastery because we're always going to be dealing with different emotions, different people, and how we navigate the ups and downs of a good economy, of a hard economy, of transitions in our organizations. I think that's what's really most important. So always learning and always building your skill set was probably the best business advice I got. And the other was have a lawyer review your contracts. Don't use Google. That was another one that I would say that's probably the most practical is use a lawyer when you have a contract.
Yeah, I would agree. You can't believe everything that comes out of Google. So
no.
So final question for you. If let's say you ran into an individual who was thinking about starting a business, but they just couldn't get, over the fence to do it, or maybe they were struggling 1 or 2 years in, what kind of advice would you give them?
Oh, well, I think I'd ask a series of questions first. If they're thinking about doing, but they haven't pulled the trigger yet, I would ask them what's stopping them. And oftentimes I think it's that fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you are constantly going to be in fear to the point that it makes you uncomfortable and you can't move forward, then I would say that small business is not for you. Because Joe, you and I both know we're uncomfortable a lot. We deal with uncertainty a lot. So if you cannot deal with a level of uncertainty, then this isn't for you. If you can, then what I would say is let's build your distress tolerance. So there are going to be times where you do not like your job, which is your small business. There are going to be times where you think about, I could just sell jewelry on the beach or get a hot dog cart and all this would be a lot easier. I could go just get a job and stock boxes. It's how you manage that stress so it doesn't impact your family, so it doesn't impact your well-being. So that would be the thing that I would say is, how do you build that distress tolerance skill? Because there are just going to be moments in life, Joe, as a business owner where you're uncomfortable. There's going to be times where you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow because the economy could change, or there could be a major regulatory change, or a product all of a sudden could be something that everybody wanted, and then tomorrow it's nothing. So being able to pivot, managing that discomfort while you're trying to figure out what the next step is, I think is really crucial to being a business owner.
I think that's fantastic advice. So listen, I really, really appreciate you being on today. It was great learning more about your business and getting a chance to talk to you. If somebody wants to get a hold of you and Clarity HR, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can go to our website, clarityhr.com. And then for me, I'm on LinkedIn, Chrissy Myers CEO, Instagram as well, Chrissy Myers CEO. And I have a book, Reluctantly Resilient, that's available on Amazon. And for those people that just don't like to read, they like to listen, it's also available on Audible.
That's great. I was going to ask that question. I drive around a lot, but I did write down the name of your book. Once again, I really appreciate you taking part in this. And for everybody out there listening, I hope you got some good nuggets of wisdom out of this. And we'll catch everybody on the next episode of Mastering the Numbers. Take care. You've just tuned into another episode of Mastering the Numbers. We hope you found valuable insight to boost your financial success. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Keep pushing forward, and thanks for listening.